To thank the local organizing committee here in Michigan City for their continued commitment to the young people involved in tonight's competition and their tremendous hard work and dedication in organizing this outstanding annual event. We'd also like to thank all of you in the audience tonight. Your presence and enthusiasm has made this a very special evening for the performers. From all of us here at Drum Corps International, we thank you. We'll have the announcement of our final scores tonight, as well as the complete finalist list for coming up in just a few minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, your attention please. Tonight we are going to recognize someone very special to our DCI family. All of the housing that had to be taken care of, not just here in Michigan City, but all over the country, is overseen by Mr. Jeff Cox. Today, ladies and gentlemen, is Jeff's birthday. Happy birthday. Give Jeff a big round of applause, everybody. Happy birthday, Jeff. We'll have the announcement of scores in just a few minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, your attention please. There has been an iPhone that has been turned into the announcer's table. If you have lost your iPhone, please come down to the announcer's table and claim it. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, your attention please. I have a preliminary score for the Louisiana Stars. 70.675. 70.675 for the Louisiana Stars from Lafayette, Louisiana. I have a preliminary score for the Spartans. 75.075. 75.075 for the Spartans of Nashua, New Hampshire. I have a score for gold. 76.475. 76.475 for gold from Oceanside, California. I have a score for legends, 76.425. 76.425 for legends from Kalamazoo, Michigan. I have a score for Blue Devils B, 78.675. 78.675 for Blue Devils B from Concord, California. I have a score for the Vanguard Cadets, 79.425. 79.425 for the Vanguard Cadets of Santa Clara, California. And finally, I have a score for U-Ball, 68.25. 68.25 for U-Ball from Dordrecht, the Netherlands. At this time, we need all of the directors to the 50-yard line, please. Once again, all of the directors are needed at the 50-yard line at this time. So, ladies and gentlemen, advancing to open class finals tomorrow, Tuesday, August 7th, here at Ames Field are U-Ball, Shadow, Golden Empire, Southwind, the Guardians, River City Rhythm, the Louisiana Stars, 7th Regiment, the Spartans, Legends, Gold, Blue Devils B, and the Vanguard Cadets. Gates will open here at Ames Field tomorrow evening at 5 p.m. for the Open Class World Championship Finals, with the first corps stepping off at 6 p.m. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending the 2018 Drum Corps International Open Class Championship Preliminary Competition. Keep your eye on our website at www.dci.org for complete scoring and more coverage of tonight's event. We'll see you here tomorrow night at Ames Field for the 2018 DCI Open Class Championship Finals. Until then, fans, for the Michigan City Planning Committee and Drum Corps International, my name is Brad Bell. Thank you, and good night.
Studios in Austin is the post-show. I'm Emily Tanner. I'm joined today. Luke. That was a really cool.
Yeah, tours. This of them, and they're doing some amazing.
It seems to feel a lot of artistic of license to just play with the template and go for broke.
It's not just in open class.
Netherlands, which is the core that you saw just right there at the end of the show, they are in a separate class. They are in what's called international class. So they are not on this graphic. However, they are advancing to tomorrow. And so we can see here that 6th, 7th, and 8th spot we were looking at earlier has really opened up. A full point between 7th Regiment and Louisiana Stars, more than half a point between Louisiana Stars and Guardians, and then it's tightened up right there, 8th, 9th, 10th, everybody inside of a point. Golden Empire at 67, and I do believe that is perhaps a misgone shadow. I had somewhere around a 64 written down. But right there in the middle, we had talked about that earlier. The judges made some decisions tonight, Luke.
Yeah, they really did. And as you said, 8, 9, and 10 within 1 point. So it's still anyone's game tomorrow. And then as we start to move up the leaderboard, we see there's a significant jump when we get to Spartans. And that's where we jump to that actual 75. And then Legends actually coming in at 4th tonight, as opposed to 3rd, kind of where they were sitting throughout the season. Gold actually making that jump up to 3rd.
Yeah. In the medals or not in the medals, less than 0.3 of a point between those two. So it's definitely a race tomorrow, especially since, again, this is only the first time that we've had every open class corps back to back. Some of these judges may have seen this show for these performances for the first time. So tomorrow, we'll have another chance for a seasoned read and to sort out some of these competitive alignments.
Yeah, and I watching the shows tonight, I mean, I was really blown away by all of the shows. But what I saw is I can see why the judges put gold into that 3rd place. We were talking while we were watching, there's some WGI influence, some more modern influences with the uniform choices, with the prop choices, the way that they're staging the entire drum corps. So that I'm interested to see the recap. I'm seeing if the GE numbers maybe are the things that kind of kicked gold up tonight.
It's been that way, it seems, all season long. If you win GE, then you win the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, let's talk some specifics. Let's take a look at that BDB corps. That show, I'm calling it Coco meets Drum Corps.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to talk about it. But yeah, just a really interesting color palette that they bring to the field. They've got these huge yellow panels, and they can flip around and change the entire color. But they've kind of got that classic BD look with the uniform, the way that they're moving. I thought this show actually translated really well to the field.
Yeah, it was fun. It was entertaining. Some very recognizable melodies. First with the classical influence with Cesson, and then we had some Adele in there and some Ecstasy of Gold. A lot of things that we've heard from other drum corps in recent years. Very singable. You kind of walk out of the stadium going, oh yeah, I remember that tune from BDB. And then of course, the Day of the Dead theme lends itself very well to the bright colors. It's something we can all relate to, and it's sort of become part of the cultural heritage, at least here where we are. It's part of the fabric of what we sort of encounter on a daily basis.
Yeah, and I think about the musical arrangements, they were able to keep it recognizable, but also spice it up a little bit.
Absolutely.
So you got some of those cool brass licks, you got some of the cool stuff happening in the front ensemble and things like that. So it was there, we understood what the music was, but we hadn't maybe heard it in that way before.
Absolutely, yeah. And speaking of, same thing with SCV cadets. I mean, wow, what a different take on a lot of different, a lot of approaches that we've seen in the past. We have people going up on shoulders, you know, we have these really cool jumpsuit type uniforms, effects pedals in the pit. I mean, so many things.
Yeah, and this is an example of a drum corps show where you are not sticking your toe in the water. They're just completely jumping into the deep end.
Head first.
Yeah, and I think it's worked for them, and they're being rewarded because of it. I mean, look at the uniform choice, right? This is not a traditional uniform by any stretch. They're asking these performers, they've got all sorts of simultaneous demands. They're up on these props, they're holding each other. I mean, you see the winds running around. But I think this show is just really well designed.
We've been talking about all season about the new design team at SCV, the World Class Corps, and you can see clearly the effects of Michael Gaines' influence on the entire Santa Clara Vanguard organization, even on down into the Cadet Corps. Yeah.
He's influencing the entire thing from top to bottom, and I think SCV's really got an awesome show.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to watch, and a different flavor for sure from a lot of what we saw today. Sure. So U-Ball, or International Corps, our only international group this year from the Netherlands, made the trek over. They do this about once every 3 years. Vincent, the Beauty of Madness, a Van Gogh production.
Yeah, I'm always impressed with them. I'm always impressed with their presentation, especially their visual presentation. I've always loved their uniforms. That's just a personal thing of mine, but I think they have a really classy look. And then they did some really cool stuff with their show. So about the painting, they're piecing these things together throughout the show. The color palette changed drastically throughout the show. So it wasn't just one color palette that just lived there. They were constantly throwing new colors at you, which was a really dynamic experience.
And one of the things, you know, that I think is always interesting to note for these international groups is, you know, especially in Europe, they don't have football, they don't have marching bands at schools. This isn't, you know, the same kind of situation that kids here in the U.S. grow up in, sort of almost a feeder pattern where if they march in high school, a lot of them go on to drum corps. It is an absolutely different situation over there. So they're performing an educational service to their community that is much like these other open class corps, where they're sometimes training kids from the absolute first day they put the instrument in the hand, and they have the winter groups just like we do. But so when we check out these international groups, I think it's always neat to understand that they climb a very different hill.
Yeah, they really do. They have a harder hill to climb in a lot of ways. And they've got to travel overseas, right? So they're not just sitting on a tour bus, but they're sitting on planes and getting over here and dealing with all that. So kudos to them for even being here, but also putting on an awesome show.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be a great one tomorrow as we finish out the official open class season. But before we get to tomorrow, we want to talk about tonight, the fan favorite. Luke, we had, even though it's a Monday night, we had more than 18,000 folks vote in. Thanks so much for participating. This is one of my favorite elements of taking the field. And tonight's winner is, it's become traditional. Drum roll, please. Heatwave from Florida in their first ever DCI Championships appearance. Congratulations to the Heatwave Open Class Prelims fan favorite. Great times. All right, so we want to remind folks there's still a lot of drum corps to go this week. Obviously tomorrow we'll be here for open class finals. Then we start in on Thursday. We'll have all of the drum corps in one enormous day-long extravaganza of drum corps. We call that world class prelims.
That's a long day.
It's a long day. That's when you're going to want to use your FloMarching app. And then, of course, we have semifinals on Friday and finals on Saturday night. So it is a full week of Drum Corps, Luke.
It is, but it's the best week of the year.
Absolutely. It's Christmas in August.
Yeah, that sounds right.
All right. We want to thank everyone for hanging in with us, for taking the field tonight. Luke and I will be back with you tomorrow for Open Class Finals. Have a great night.